Hi guys, and welcome back to another week of Dear Piggy's Java tutorials. So this week we are going to be working on the math library, math and logical operators, if statements, and if-else statements. So this video is going to be short and quick, just about the math library and 4 simple functions in that library. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the math library, I think the first really thing that we need to talk about here is what a library actually is. Now, a library in Java is not some place where you can go borrow all of the Dork Diaries books or the Diary of the Wimpy Kid books and your librarian is yelling at you to be quiet. Nope, that's not exactly what a library is in Java. So what I mean by a library is it's basically a already pre-made set that you can just take functions from. So that's the simple definition. Here's how I think of it. So we can do a lot of things, right? But it's really hard to do everything for ourselves. So what the library does is by using a library, Java has already built some libraries in its program. And so by using these libraries, we can take advantage of some of their functions. And these functions will help us out a lot. So you can later on create your own functions, which we'll learn. But in a library, they'll give you functions that you can just take the name and plug in your own numbers and it'll do some sort of action for you. And you yourself do not need to physically program it to do those actions. It's already built in. So as we get more and more advanced and dive deeper into the language of Java, libraries are going to be more and more useful for us. So let's go ahead and go to Replit. Go ahead and start coding to log in. And we are going to choose, nope, we do not want to see that. We are going to choose Java, create your REPL. Alrighty, so again, like I said, this video is quick and easy. Lots of these topics that we're learning are going to be topics that you've learned in math already. So honestly, in my opinion, if you don't understand what functions you're doing here, most likely we don't really understand what's going on in the math part. So these that I've chosen are all really, really simple just to get us a little bit of a feel on how to use functions a little bit more. So let's go ahead and start it. We have our first print line. So now the first thing we're going to do is we are going to work on the minimum function. So now what this is we're going to call the math library. We have to specify that this certain function is coming from the math library. So we do capital M, math. This is the math library. Then we say dot min. Now min stands for minimum. So this is a function, guys. Anytime you see parentheses behind a series of words, probably dot something, that is a function. And so this min is a function in the math library, and it's going to find the minimum of the numbers that we give it. So we don't have to actually write the code to do that because it's built in. All we have to do is plug in some numbers and watch it work the magic. So let's plug in 2 numbers, 34, and 97. 987, never mind, 987. 9,876, all right. So what we need to do now is this by itself is not going to work, as you'll see here. What we need to do is we want to print this out. So system.out.println, and then wrap your entire math function in these function parentheses. So you'll see here that println by itself is a function because it has these parentheses. But then instead of printing out one single variable or a string, we've printed out the value of whatever this gives us. So whatever value this minimum function in the math library returns us is going to be what gets printed out onto our screen. So go ahead, run your code, and you'll see There we go, 34. So 34 obviously is the minimum number between 34 and 9,876, right? When you're comparing these two numbers, hopefully I would hope that you know that 34 is the smaller number, right? So the minimum function, like its name, takes the minimum. Easy peasy, right? So takes the smaller number. All right, the next function is the exact opposite. It is the maximum function. Now, hopefully we know what this is going to do, right? This is very simple math, again, because we're using it from the math library, and do math.max. Math.max, we have to give it some numbers, right? We have to tell it which numbers to take the maximum from. So go ahead. I'm just going to enter in some random numbers here, and there we go. So these are our two numbers, 2,134, 23,480. Wow. Okay, so go ahead and have it print out this answer. Again, I don't really want to save this to a variable or anything because I'm just using it once. So I'm just printing it out here as its own value. Pretend like this entire math.max function is its own variable and you're just printing that variable out. Except instead of writing the variable name, we just put in the function. That's how I want you guys to think of it. Run your code and you will see that we get, drum roll, 23,480. So this means that everything is working. The minimum function takes the smaller number and the maximum function takes the bigger number. There we go, perfect. So far so good. We've 2 functions down, 2 more to go. So this next one is going to be a little bit different. It is the absolute value function. Well, no, that's too obvious. Let's just do abs function. So no, this is not talking about the abs on Superman's stomach, okay? Not that. We're gonna do math.abs, abs. Now, if you guys have gotten this far in your math class, then you know that the absolute value of a number is the distance from 0. So basically, how I like to think of it is just the positive value of whatever number you're taking. So the absolute value of -3 is 3. And the absolute value of 3 is 3 because it's 3 units away from 0, right? So we just basically take the positive version of whatever number you have. So now over here, we're going to give it a number. So let's give it -32 and then print out the value again like we always do. System.out.println and semicolon. Run your code and it should give us 32, right? Because 32 is the distance from 0 from -32. And yes, you see that it does indeed give us 32. Try it on a positive number. So let's just say 10 and you'll see that, what does it do? It gives us 10. So like I said, it gives us the absolute value of the number. Right, so next one we're going to, and the last one for this video, is the square root function. Now, hopefully we know what a square root is. If you don't, basically take a number, for example, x squared, the square root would be x, so a number multiplied by itself. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to do a perfect square. So SQRT stands for square root. Now, let's give 9, because we know that 3 times 3 is going to be 9, right? So hopefully, if things go right, this is going to give us 3. System.out.println math.square-root-9, semicolon. Now run your code, and what is it going to give us? It's going to give us 3.0. So like we said before, 3 times 3 is 9. So 3 would be the square root. If I gave it just a random number that I saw, 20, as we know this is not going to be a perfect square, then it's going to give us probably somewhere between 4 and 5. There we go. So it gives us the entire square root number here with all its little decimal places, and that's a lot. So yeah, so you know that the square root function finds the square root, I can't spell square, root of the number given. I'll just say number. All right, so these four are our functions that I introduced to you guys in the math library. Again, we learned a couple new concepts. We learned about libraries, which are like built-in things in the Java program that have functions already made for you. So all you have to do is call them by writing them out, and you don't have to do any work and you can use them. So we also learned about the max, min, abs, and square root functions, which I think are pretty self-explanatory, like I wrote over here. So our next video, we will be talking about math and logical operators, so just operators in general. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.